be with you for the next hour. As our regular viewers are aware, on Just Law we normally discuss an aspect of law which is of interest to our viewers, and secondly, more importantly, it's a live show and it gives you, the viewers, the opportunity to call in and ask any questions that you have on any aspect of the law. So the number that you'll be able to call on will be appearing at the bottom of the screen. A couple of matters before we get going. Obviously it's a live show, so we're not able to look at your documents, or we're not able to take very detailed instructions from you. And in view of that, some of the advice that we give may be of a generic nature. But where we need to look at your documents or we need to take more detailed instructions from you, we'll ask you to leave your number with the control room, and I will then have a more detailed conversation with you off air. In my experience, within the show, we're normally able to deal with most queries properly, and we're able to give proper guidance and a steer during the live show. However, in those more complicated matters, we're more than happy to speak to you off air and to provide you with guidance and assistance as and when you require from us. Now, what I want to do today is to look at what I've looked at in the last couple of shows, which is the amendments to the income requirements when someone is making a spouse application. The reason I've been looking at this over the last couple of weeks is that increasingly we are receiving queries from people who seem to be of the impression that when you're making an immigration application, a spouse application, the 18,600 requirement no longer applies. I have to say, I am now receiving 2 to 3 queries a day where people are saying to me, well, you know, the 18,600 requirement is gone, so if I want to call my husband or wife over, it's now very easy for me to do it. I may be earning £9,000–10,000 a year, but because of this new change that's come in, I should be able to sponsor my husband or wife to come to the United Kingdom without meeting the 18,600 requirement. I think the problem has come about because of the way this change in the immigration rule has been reported. Reported by the press, reported by the papers, reported by some satellite channels as well. Now, what I tend to say to our clients is that it's actually more complicated than that. It's not a case that if you don't meet the 18,600 requirement, it's still fine, your husband or wife will be given a visa, you know, there's nothing to worry about. That's simply not the case. What I try to impress on people is that although the rules have changed slightly, they only apply in exceptional circumstances. So what I want to do in the first part of the show, because it's only short, we've only got a few minutes, I want to go through the amendments to the rules again, so it's crystal clear that the rules haven't changed to the extent where the requirement doesn't have to be met at all. I accept the rules have changed, but they are only slight changes which have been brought about. So what is it that's happened? Well, basically, as a result of this case which went up to the Supreme Court, the highest court in this country, as a result of that, the judges in the Supreme Court basically said that in order to ensure that the best interests of the children are taken into account, there are some changes that need to be made to the immigration rules. And that happened about 2 to 3 months ago, and now we have these revised rules as a result of what the judges said. These revised rules came into force on the 10th of August 2017, so it's only been a couple of weeks. So before we look at the rules, let's just think about this. The rules have just come in, and the reality is we don't know how the Home Office is going to interpret the rules. How flexible are they going to be? The reality is, based on past experience, I would say they won't be flexible at all, and they won't be lenient at all. But we don't know how the Home Office will interpret the rules. Secondly, we don't know what's going to happen where there are refusals as to how the tribunals are going to interpret the rules. So there is a huge sort of grey area at the moment as it is. So it's simply not the case that the rules have been amended and it's easy now to apply for a spouse visa. But let's look at what these changes are. Essentially, what the rules are saying is that in exceptional circumstances where there would be harsh consequences either for the applicant, for the spouse or for any relevant children. So where in exceptional circumstances there would be harsh consequences for these categories of people, then the Home Office is prepared to look outside the 18,600 minimum income requirement. So the starting point is look at the hurdle that needs to be got over. The case has to be exceptional. So there has to be real hardship for the applicant, the spouse and the children. It's only in that situation that the Home Office is prepared to look beyond the strict wording of the rules. So what is it that they're prepared to do? Essentially, what the Home Office is now saying is that in those limited circumstances, they are prepared to look at other sources of income. So they are saying that they will, for example, look at the potential income of an applicant. So if a husband or wife is coming to the United Kingdom and they have a job offer in the United Kingdom, they are prepared to look at that. If there's somebody in the family who's extremely well off and is able to support them, then the Home Office is saying that we're prepared to look at that as well. Now, starting point is it is only in exceptional circumstances that they're prepared to do that. And even in exceptional circumstances, they want other means of funding. So, there has to be some other funding which is equivalent to the 18,600 requirement. So it's not simply a case of saying that 18,600 requirement doesn't apply anymore. There are very limited circumstances in which those strict rules may not apply. We'll look at that in greater detail after our short break.